Well, I had to have 3 lobotomies, but I have now fully recovered from my debate with Flatzoid. What I want to do is talk about, there was one pretty good educational thing to take away from that. And then I want to just go over kind of the debate in general, how it went, and what I would do different if it happens again. I actually thought it was probably more likely than not that the debate would happen, despite me saying over and over again in that video that he will not accept the debate. I mean, I kind of gave him no choice with how with how rage baity I was. After seeing his debate with Will Duffy and how Flatzoid refused to answer anything, and the way he ran away from the accountability of his claim that you won't see a 24-hour sun in Antarctica by just simply turning it around and saying, well, no, that's not what I said. Now you're misrepresenting me. What I meant was, I don't think there will be a 24-hour sun, but there is. Then I will just simply believe that the 24-hour sun is compatible with the flat earth. And I don't need to back it up because it's not my claim. I'm not the one with the burden. Because of that, I thought the whole thing was going to be a total joke, and I was not going to take it seriously. I was going to play his game the entire time. At least that was the original plan. And I realized about 1 minute into the conversation that I just simply don't know how to be that dishonest. It's not a gift that I have. I did do it a few times. There was one, I don't remember what we were talking. Oh, the sun being 93 million miles away. He said, he claims it's local. I say 93 million miles away. And then he told me to back that up, which I can, but I just used his trick. I said, well, no. I don't claim that it is. That's just what I believe. I believe it's possible that it's 93 million miles away. I have to say that I was surprised actually at how level-headed the conversation was. There was really only one point that I can remember where he said, oh, I have over 250 people watching this and they're all calling you an idiot. And I just essentially said, I don't care. But it wasn't a mudslinging contest or anything like that. And he actually pretty much stuck to his guns on everything. He attempted to actually give an account for all the things he was arguing for. That caught me a little bit off guard, actually. I want to make sure that I talk about this. The big takeaway from the debate is this whole... so this is where I educate you about a tactic they use so you know how to approach it in the future. The affirming the consequent fallacy. So affirming the consequent is... So a logical state, like a modus ponens statement goes, if P, then Q, P, therefore Q. Affirming the consequent is when you say, if P, then Q, Q, therefore P. That's a fallacy. Now again, with fallacies, it doesn't make what you're saying false. It just means that it's not guaranteed to be true because you've screwed up, in this case, you've screwed up the sequence of the premises. We need to confront them about this because all lines of evidence always affirm the consequent. Because when you do affirming the consequent, you say P, if P then Q, that means that Q is, if Q happens, or if we observe Q, that is supporting evidence of P. Now it could be other things, but it still is supporting evidence of P. And again, literally all lines of evidence work this way. If person X committed a murder, we should find DNA evidence or a murder weapon with their fingerprint at the crime scene. We do find it. That is supporting evidence of proposition P or premise P or whatever. Doesn't guarantee it, but it is evidence. So that's what I would suggest doing if they say this. Change the subject very slightly in order to prove to them, to deconstruct their argument and make them do it for you. Just if they say you're affirming the consequent in a discussion about the flat earth, ask them, hey, whatever your name is, if we found DNA evidence from somebody who's accused of a crime at the crime scene, wouldn't that be evidence that they did it? They're going to say yes, and then tell them how that's affirming the consequent, and don't do it as if to argue that the person should be let off the hook. Use it to let them know that, yes, all lines of evidence always affirm the consequent. So flat earthers are the only ones that do the affirming the consequent fallacy. They throw out the fallacy, but aren't understanding it correctly, or the implication for it, or like they're pretending it's a checkmate when really it's nothing but I don't play chess, but like a weak move that you have to respond to, but it's not devastating. You chess nerds, give an example of what that would be. Okay, so what went well in the debate? Well, we talked for 90 minutes, and in that 90 minutes, we only talked about 4 total things. And I think that's good, because I know the tactic is to jump around. Now, and we spent, I think, over 50 minutes just on the freaking, the angles thing. Well, I think it was the angles thing plus the converging, diverging rays. So I thought it was funny. Like I was reading comments from that video throughout the day, and I kept thinking, like, there's a lot of people going after me saying I didn't do that good of a job. And then I remembered that I said, let me know what could have gone better. So I think I'm being too hard on myself. But I actually think that we did a really good job, because I know how it's just a never-ending shitstorm of claim, one thing after the other, supporting one stupid claim with an even stupider claim and not really getting to anything. Another thing I thought that went well was, he, on a few different occasions, he tried to get me with something like, could you tell me the dependent and the independent variables for such and such? That didn't work. But funny enough, speaking of affirming the consequent, when he accused me of doing it, I asked him, tell me what P and Q are from what I'm saying, and then diagnose them. And he absolutely couldn't do it. So I thought that was really funny. There was one thing, like at the very end, he said, there are no experiments where gravity is the independent variable. And that did really stump me. I haven't thought about it very hard, but the only example I think would count is the mass of something does change if you go up in elevation, which is consistent with, in that case, what you're really doing is you're changing your position from the center of mass. So you're changing your position sort of within the gravity well of the object. I think that counts as an independent variable. Let me know if that's not the case, and let me know if you thought of an example. Maybe the most satisfying thing was I got him to admit that his measuring system didn't work. So I walked him through, or we walked together. Really, it was me doing it for him. The logic of you establish the height of the sun, or it can be Polaris or the sun, it doesn't matter, above the ground level by taking that measurement at whatever latitude. That establishes height. Now that leads to predictions of what the observed angle will be in other places, and it always fails. And he could not deal with that. I don't even remember what the run. Well, I'll show you that diagram that he used, but in the end, the only thing he could say is, yeah, it's called perspective, which is the classic cop out. So, yeah, people wanted me to, when he was cornered, keep hammering him on something. But I kind of thought of it as, look, once you've said that, you've admitted that you don't know, not out loud and not in those words, hey, Peterson, you got me. But when you do that, you lost. And, we can move on, and the people that are smart will understand. Fight the Flat Earth did he did a live stream where he reviewed the debate I had with Flatzoid, and one of the things he pointed out was that I managed to interrupt Flatzoid and get him to apologize to me at the same time. And I think he said he's going to take notes, because he was amazed that because he was amazed that that happened. So good for me, I guess. I alluded to this earlier, but the other thing that I thought went extremely well was every single thing we talked about ended in complete dead ends for him. The thing about the measuring the star angles or whatever above the ground, that ended with, yeah, it's called perspective, which is a total admission of defeat without literally admitting defeat. The thing about the convergent, divergent rays, the crepuscular rays, and the light poles actually being parallel. When I showed him that the shadows are parallel, his response was, yeah, the fence is curved. There was no fence. Nothing was curved. So again, that was just an admission of defeat, and we moved on after that. The vacuum conversation. That one was really wild. I was really satisfied with that. He couldn't give it. The only thing he could fall back on was the dead end of, yeah, it's a closed system. But I really liked, I came up with this off the top of my head. I didn't prepare for this debate in any way. But when we talked about, imagine we extend the dome very far, and at the absolute edge of the dome, it's indistinguishable from a vacuum. When we cut a hole in the dome, the air on the ground will eventually then come out of the dome, but before then it doesn't. And there's no explanation for that from them. There's nothing they can bring up that will ever make any sense of the density gradients or the pressure gradients that we see in the structure of the atmosphere. Now he did, and I think it was a major mistake on his part, and even he would say so. He alluded to that, well, eventually the air on the ground will equalize with the air, on top of the dome. But then I think he ran away from that when I pressed him on it immediately after that. What I should have said, because I have thought of this before, you can, and he didn't really go there with this, but sometimes they say, yeah, if you made a sufficiently big enough container, then it would have pressure gradients. And that's true because of the effect of gravity. But what I haven't been able to use this argument yet, but if they say that, what I would respond to them is, hey, wait a minute, why can't you make one that's horizontal with pressure gradients? Because that's not possible. If you can have pressure gradients in an enclosed system, there's no reason that those pressure gradients can't exist horizontally if gravity isn't a thing. Yet I know that they'll never be able to give an account for that. The way he thought the soda can thing was that was like his only happy moment for the debate. He's like, you just admitted it. No, Flatzoid, because what I said was it only becomes relevant when the can is opened. So the can is high pressure, but sea level is high pressure too, relatively speaking, yet that air, as fast as it can, rushes out to equalize. How on earth? And they're part of the same system when that happens. So we have high pressure inside in an instantaneous moment when the lid is opened, high pressure inside the system, it's all connected, and then relatively lower pressure out there, they rapidly equalize, but the ground air and the air above us does not do that. So they are completely dumbfounded on that. And then the whole why do things fall down, that was mind-numbingly frustrating because he just kept framing the problem in a different way. Yeah, it takes effort to move it up. Why up? That's just saying why do things fall down in a different way. And the fact that his answer was potential energy was so incredibly funny. That might have been his lowest point, other than contradicting himself on the perspective thing for convergent divergent. That was just so I don't even remember what it was, but he said railroad tracks either diverge or converge. Well, he said it's from the perspective of the observer. So he said railroad tracks converge, but light rays diverge. That was so funny. So what could have been a little bit different? The only thing I'm actually beating myself up about is that diagram that he used. I'll put it up right here. I had no idea what I was looking at. I never had seen this before, but This proved my point so well, and I so wish I would have realized it at the time. So he was saying that, if you want to observe Polaris, you can do that with a flat Earth because this models exactly what happens. The problem with this is, if you look at the very top where it says 90/80, that establishes what I was talking about when you get your initial measurement for establishing h for the height. All these other things, look at where the lines are going. Look at where the 70, 60, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10 lines are going. Those lines, those angles keep going down, which means whatever you're observing keeps getting closer and closer to the ground. In reality, the only way for that to actually work is if the thing you're observing is either going down or you're observing different things that are closer to the ground. So that would have proved my point so perfectly because it establishes that this completely falls apart. And then the math here, so what's going on here is NM it's not nanometers, it's nautical miles. So every 10 degrees of latitude is 600 nautical miles. I didn't know that. Cool. I knew that 1 degree of latitude it's a little over 69 land miles. Nice. But literally this math over here to the left is nothing. It's just literally in a more complicated way telling you how many miles there are at each latitude. 90 minus 80 equals 10 times 600 is 600 nautical miles. That's just a restatement of the known facts about distances. So if there ever is a next time, maybe I would, maybe we could go over that, bring that up. The other thing about that diagram is when he kept saying that all celestial observations assume a flat surface, forgetting that that's literally not true. Even if we go with that, what they don't realize is all that does is it proves local flatness, not global flatness. Because look, the Earth could be shaped like a three-dimensional octagon where there are multiple flat surfaces that you stand on. If you're at any of those places, as long as you're not next to one of the vertices, then whatever extends out in front of you is a flat surface, and then you make a measurement. So that doesn't actually prove that overall everything is completely flat and there are no kinks or changes in, I don't know what you'd even call that, the topology or something. I think next time I would try to only focus on ground-based things. Apart from two examples, the sun rising in the southeast during summer in the southern hemisphere, that is so irreconcilable, and we'd have to do it with a Gleason map and placing the sun on it, where it would have to be to see it at 135 degrees from whatever that town in Argentina or Chile was, versus where people in another part of the world seeing that sun at local noon at that same time is. I mean, it's going to be in two different places. So that's irreconcilable. I would also want to focus on the moon because this is always a checkmate for these idiots. Two people on effectively opposite sides of the Earth looking at the moon on a flat Earth, they can't possibly see the exact same moon. They're going to see different parts of it. There will be overlap, but they can't see the same thing. Yet that is what happens. But the rest of it would be just ground-based things. Like, for example, in the southern hemisphere, if two people travel straight due south, they get closer together. That's completely impossible on a flat Earth because south radiates in all directions away from the North Pole. They never get closer together. The Coriolis effect, that would be one that I would like to go over. So I would try to have the conversation go more in a direction like, look, if Earth was a globe, then we would see these kinds of things happen. Like for Coriolis effect, you agree that a spinning sphere spins fastest in the middle, and you agree that the law of conservation of momentum and angular momentum, whatever, exists. So if you would travel north, you would get deflected. And that does match what we see in reality. So you can go ahead and say that the Earth is not a globe, but what is your explanation for why, for example, the Coriolis effect happens? And who knows, maybe then it would turn into, oh, I don't make a claim, it's your burden. So, I don't know. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Let me know what yours are, and I'll see you tomorrow.